Hello viewers, welcome to the learning session on supply chain and logistics management. Today's focus is on role of IT in supply chain. So let us understand today what is the meaning of supply chain coordination, bullwhip effect, the effect of lack of coordination on performance, and let us also try to identify the obstacles to coordination and managerial levers to achieve coordination. As I already mentioned, supply chain consists of a number of stages directly or indirectly involved in fulfilling the customer request. So these stages are referred to as companies and owned by different owners. So coordination between these owners is very important for the successful running of the supply chain. This coordination improves if all owners take actions together by considering their consequences on the neighboring stages. And once this coordination is developed, it will have positive impact on supply chain profitability. So this coordination requires that each stage, that is each company, taking into account the effects of its actions on the other stages. For example, there are two stages, say, let us consider this scenario, a manufacturer and a retailer, a wholesaler, manufacturer and a wholesaler. Manufacturer produces the product, whereas wholesaler will distribute it. Now supposing manufacturer used to deliver every week one truck to the wholesaler, to a particular wholesaler, and supposing he thinks about his local objective of maximizing his own profit, he thinks of cutting down the inventory cost. So he runs the truck every day so that his inventory cost comes down, but this will have impact on the transportation cost as well as on the inventory cost of the wholesaler. Here, for the manufacturer, the cost reduces, but this will have negative impact, or the cost increases for the wholesaler, because he'll be looking after the inventory which manufacturer just skipped off. So these kinds of actions should not be taken because it hurts the profitability of the neighboring stages. When we look at the supply chain holistically, this will not have any effect. At one place it is +5 and the other place it is -5. So effects are nullified. So what happens if this lack of coordination develops? It results when different stages of the supply chain have conflicting objectives. Every stage owner will think only locally about maximizing his own objectives. It may have negative impact on the other owner. This is called conflicting objectives. So information moving between the stages is delayed or distorted. Either no information is given, means it will be given after a delay, or the information which is sent is distorted. For example, if retailer thinks of some promotion and that information, if not given to the manufacturer thinks that there is a permanent hike in the sales. So he misinterprets it because information is not properly given, or it was given after a delay. Or if the demand is 100, the retailer gives the demand picture to the manufacturer saying that there is a demand of 120. So information is distorted. So due to these two things, lack of coordination results. So why these conflicting objectives will develop between the different stages? Because each stage has different owner. As we already know, supply chain consists of customer, retailer, wholesaler, manufacturer and supplier majorly. At each stage, think that there are number of players. Then all these players are different owners actually. So each one, supposing if they think locally about their own objectives, there is a possibility that it will have negative impact and total supply chain profitability will reduce. So today there is a trend to have not only different owners. Already by having different owners, the system has become complicated. Now it is exaggerated because of large amount of product variety that is being demanded by the customer. Today is an era of continuous improvement. And supposing a supply chain has to sustain in the market, then it has to come out with the variety. People come in and when they see the same model, they say, last year also I saw the same model. What is the fun in spending so much to take the same model home? That's what the question will be from the customer. So this compels the owner of a stage to go for more variety. And say for example, you consider Ford Motor Company, an automobile company. Number of parts in the car, accordingly thousands of suppliers, who in turn will have next tier of suppliers, and information sharing or information movement is very difficult in such cases. So a product variety, number of models, and in each model once again there are different options. For example, particular model, if you consider say hatchback car, in that you have diesel, petrol, automatic gear, manual gear. So variety is increasing like anything day by day, which makes this information sharing instantly more and more difficult. So the important takeaway is that out of so far slides we have seen, fundamental challenge today for supply chains is to achieve coordination despite multiple ownership and increased product variety. Whatever are the hurdles, you try to achieve coordination between the different owners. This is a big challenge in front of the supply chains today. Now let us see what is this bullwhip effect. You can make out here, this is the supply chain actually, wherein customer is there who will come to the retailer and places his demand. Retailer, based on the demand which he got from the customer, will place the demand with the wholesaler. Wholesaler in turn will place the order with the manufacturer, and who to manufacture will place the raw material demand with the supplier. What happens here? Customer will demand with the retailer some quantity. The retailer will grasp it neatly, because this is the interface between the retailer and customer. So more or less the demand is stable. There are no more fluctuations here. But you just compare this with this. This is the retailer's orders at the wholesaler now. When it comes to wholesaler, the fluctuations are more. Can you make out? And this is when kept with the manufacturer. When wholesaler comes and places the order with the manufacturer, still more amplitude wise variation of the demand, and this furthermore gets amplified when it goes to the supplier. Here it was more or less stable, here it was totally variable. This increase in fluctuations, can you make out? At the retailer amplitude is this much, whereas at the wholesaler it is bit more, manufacturer still more, supplier it is totally the highest. More or less stable, and progressively as and when you move upstream, it reaches the peak here. We call from customer towards a supplier upstream, from supplier towards customer downstream. So this fluctuation in demand, this increase in variation in demand, or increase in fluctuation in demand, or increase in fluctuation in order as one moves up the supply chain from the retailer towards the supplier. It is called bullwhip effect. Why the name bullwhip effect? When you crack the whip at the near the hand, by gentle movement, you suppose if you crack the whip near the hand, you will have small waves. But as it progresses towards its length, at the tail end it will have big waves. This is called, that is why the name bullwhip effect. Now, demand information distorts within the supply chain, where various stages have very different estimates of what demand looks like. In the sense, customer is in direct contact with the retailer will get the correct picture of the demand. But wholesaler, manufacturer, suppliers, they don't have a direct picture of the demand because they don't interact with the customer. So they only prepare their forecast based on their lower stage demand. What they place the demand, based on that they picturize the forecasting. So that is how the guesswork also gets added up, because of which things vary by large amount when it comes to the supplier. So this fluctuation in demand, this increase in fluctuation in demand as one moves up from the retailer towards the supplier, it is called bullwhip effect. Very, very important and very, very big hurdle for the coordination, as well as will have highest negative impact on supply chain profitability. Should be reduced as much as possible, though not completely possible. So bullwhip effect results in what and all? What happens if bullwhip effect is there? It will be there, but if it increases, what happens? First, it will have negative impact on supply chain coordination. The relationship between the stages will worsen. It is not possible to match supply and demand. In this the costs increase. Inventories, they try to keep more and more. Despite that, there will be stockouts, poorer product availability. What is the meaning of product availability? When a demand comes in by the customer, if it is satisfied by the available inventory, then we say product is available or product availability is there. And if when the demand comes in, product is not available in the inventory, we call it as stockout. And ultimately, it will decrease the profitability. Say for example, you consider Procter and Gamble, one of the large consumer products manufacturer. Say a soap powder, Ariel, manufactured by P&G. RM orders, raw material orders from P&G to its suppliers fluctuated significantly over time. But actually at the retailer stores, it was small. Similar trend was observed in the sales of ICs, memory chips by computer manufacturer HP, and Barilla, Italian pasta manufacturer. It's an interesting story what they observed actually. In Italy, the retail sellers of pasta, the outlets, when they placed the order with the local distribution centers, the variation of the factor by which it varied was 3. But when these local wholesalers, when they placed the orders with their higher stages, the factor by which the variation was observed was 70. So where is the factor equal to 3 and where is the factor equal to 70? Over a period of time, over a year. So weekly orders fluctuated to that extent. So this is called bullwhip effect. So when they ask you to explain with some example, a barrel example you can give. Now, the effect of lack of coordination on supply chain performance. The effect of lack of coordination is also same. The effect of lack of bullwhip effect is also same. Both are same. what happens? Manufacturing cost increases. All these I've taken the example of Procter and Gamble and his suppliers. So now these people have to satisfy orders that is much more variable than the actual customer demand. If actual customer demand is 100, by the time it reaches to the suppliers, it would have become double, somewhere around 200. So to cope up with that, they have to go for either excess capacity or holding excess inventory. In both the cases, manufacturing cost per unit will increase, and if they go for excess capacity, actually it's a foul game. Fake demand, not the actual demand, inflated demand. So even if they build extra capacity, that actual demand won't be so. So tomorrow they'll understand that it is temporary, and when it doesn't materialize, capacity goes as waste. Inventory cost increases. To cope up with the high level of inventory, what these manufacturers and suppliers do, they have to go for increased inventory, and to keep that in inventory, they have to go for more warehousing space. All will add cost to inventory cost. Next is replenishment lead time, that also increases. So because of increased variability, inflated demand, this manufacturer will say to deliver that much large demand, I need more replenishment lead time. So that is why replenishment lead time also increases. Transportation requirement for that inflated demand is also more. So that will increase the transportation cost. Labor cost needed for shipping and receiving at both the places, one who sends it, one who receives it. At both the places it increases. Level of product availability. Despite all this, there is every possibility that product availability would not have increased, because the product which was needed and the demand which these people thought about was different. So these people involved in producing, say, item number 1, but their item number 1 wanted was only half of it, and item number 2 needed was not at all produced, because all the time was used for producing inflated demand of item number 1. So because of all this, relationship worsens. How it happens? There will be negative effect on performance, and when there is failure, everybody starts thinking about, everybody will go for brainstorming. The higher authorities, they order for the brainstorming, finding out the root causes and all. Then people start blame game. Every stage, the owner of every stage thinks that he has done his best, and that for this failure, the owners of other stages are a root cause. They're responsible. So this kind of blame game starts, because of which there will be loss of trust. One will not trust on the other one. So despite taking all efforts to repair the coordination, the possibility of that is very meager, and everything will be in vain. Ultimately, profitability decreases. So what is the takeaway? The bullwhip effect and the resulting lack of coordination have significant negative impact on total supply chain profitability. So they make the things more expensive to provide a given level of product availability. So let us now identify what are the obstacles to coordination. What are the factors which lead to this lack of coordination? Majorly, there are 2: conflicting objectives between the stages due to local optimization. Secondly, information delay, distortion, and variability. So these obstacles are listed as incentive obstacles, information processing obstacles, operational obstacles, pricing, and behavior. So let us see what are they. Information processing obstacles. occur in situations when demand information is distorted as it moves between different stages of the supply chain, leading to increased variability in orders. What happens is only the retailer will forecast the demand correctly based on the demand he is going to get, because that is the point of sale. Point of sale is nothing but the location where the sales take place at the retailer. So retailer is called point of sales. He can picturize the demand to more or less same, to some extent same. But what happens to the next upstream stages? They are not in direct contact with the customer. So they go for a little bit of guesswork. Particularly manufacturer and suppliers, though, they don't have any clue about the demand. And what demand they get from their lower stages, they start forecasting based on that demand which they got from their lower stages. So each stage visualizes itself that its primary role is to fill the order placed by its downstream partner. What actually going on at the point of sale, they never bother. So this leads to information processing obstacle. This lack of information sharing will magnify the bullwhip effect. For example, consider Walmart, a multinational retailer. He may increase the size temporarily. He would have planned some promotion for the next month. So he increases the order size, but he doesn't convey this information to the very next higher stage manufacturer. Manufacturer is not aware of this. He interprets in his own way. Oh, there is an increase in the demand. Suddenly, there may be this kind of spike in future also. I have to prepare for it. Stock out should not happen. It needs its own lead time to produce more for the manufacturer. So he places with the order for the raw material with the supplier accordingly, thinking that future growth of the demand. So, but after 1 month or so, the Walmart finishes his promotion. Manufacturing suppliers were not knowing. They planned everything and executed the actions for the larger demand to be continued, and when it doesn't materialize, when the promotion duration gets over, they are left out with the large amount of inventory which the retailer will refuse to take, because he says, I had promotion last month planned for, so I took, this time I will not take. So information sharing, or the delay or distortion in information sharing, leads to information processing obstacle. How about the second one, operational obstacles? These occur during placing and filling the orders. While ordering, what the retailer does when he orders with the manufacturer, he simply increases the lot sizes. There are reasons for that. One is that whenever an order is placed, there is associated fixed cost. This fixed cost reduces as the order size or the order quantity increases. So just to have less fixed cost associated with the ordering, the retailer will try to increase the lot size. Secondly, there is every possibility that discounts being offered by the manufacturer. If he says the lot size is more, then I will give you the discount. So because of the attraction of the discount, there is every possibility that retailer will order in large lots. Large replenishment lead time. Supposing if there is a random increase in the demand, which the retailer feels it. Consider this scenario. There is a retailer and manufacturer. A retailer observes a random increase in the demand. But what he does, he thinks that it is the permanent, and thinking like that, he just increases the order size with the manufacturer. Manufacturer, without having any clue, he thinks that definitely there will be a spike in the sales and it will remain permanent. So he will prepare for it. So what happens? Supposing retailer is facing two weeks of replenishment lead time, then this misinterpretation takes place only for 2 weeks. But if he is facing for 2 months, supposing in place of 2 weeks, if 2 months replenishment lead time if he is facing, then this misinterpretation continues for 2 months. So larger replenishment lead time also leads to operational obstacle. Rationing and shortage gaming. So what happens, say for example, this happens whenever there is a new product coming in, being introduced into the market. For the new product, suppose there is a large demand from the retailers to the manufacturer, but manufacturer is setting up the capacity, so he doesn't have that much capacity to produce. Supposing there is demand from retailers for 100 units per retailer, and such 10 retailers are there, manufacturer's capacity is to produce only 50% of that, 100 into 10,000, but he has got the capacity to produce only 500. What he does is he goes for rationing scheme. That means due to shortage of the capacity and abundance in demand, he says every retailer will be supplied with the demand only by 50%. Means whatever retailer has demanded for, only 50% of that will be supplied. Supposing if he places an order of 100, he will be supplied with 50. So what happens next time? Retailers will play smart. What they do, rather than placing an order for 100, they place for 200. Why? So that they get 100, which is their requirement. So this is nothing but information distortion. Actual demand is 100, making it 200. So simply inflating the demand. So this is called rationing and shortage gaming. Pricing obstacles. This is due to pricing policies. Trade promotions, lot size based discounts, all these give rise to forward buying. Means during the promotion period, since per item cost is less, these retailers, they are forced to buy in large quantities so that they can make use of it once the promotion period gets over for the future sales, so that more profit they can earn, they think. So this is one kind of obstacle due to pricing policy. Next is behavioral obstacles. This arises when each stage of supply chain views its actions locally and unable to see its impact on the entire supply chain. In a holistic way, if you don't look at the supply chain stages, the owners of every stage, they try to optimize their local objectives without worrying about the root causes, because root causes may be lying beyond their boundaries. There is every possibility that action takes place in one stage, but its reaction can be seen in some other stage. There's every possibility, definitely it happens. So kind of blame game starts, because the action took place here, but the consequence is not here. So people start blaming on each other for every action of someone else, and this keeps increasing, and a chain of reactions, vicious cycle, a chain of reactions take place and create problems, continue with the blame game. Ultimately it gives rise to lack of trust. People think that each one of the owners are opportunistic in nature. No one will believe on the other players. There should have been cooperation actually, but now they become enemies. So significant duplication of effort. For example, if there is good coordination, good trust and coordination between supplier and manufacturer, whatever supplier supplies, manufacturer can simply take it without any inward inspection. But if they don't believe each other, manufacturer once again goes for inward inspection, so duplication of effort will be there. And information, either they don't share, and even if they share also, the second person will not believe this what first person has sent. So this is called behavioral obstacles. We have seen the obstacles to achieve coordination. Now let us see managerial levers to achieve coordination. This slide lists these managerial levers. If you see these, no, you can connect one to one with the hurdles to achieve coordination. They are linked one to one. For example, aligning goals and incentives corresponding to incentives obstacle. Second one is corresponding to information processing obstacle. Third one is regarding operational obstacle. So these are the remedial action for those problems which are in the form of obstacles. So many managerial levers are the medicines for those obstacles, that is problems. So we'll see one by one. Aligning goals and incentives. Incentives should not be given to any participant. Here participant refers to stage or the company. Incentive should not be given to any participant for achieving something which will maximize only that participant's profit. If a particular participant or a stage owner has done something that will improve the total supply chain profitability, then only incentive should be given. Secondly, sales force incentive should be based on not on sell in but on sell through. What is the meaning of this? Manufacturer should not give incentive to the retailer or some discount to the retailer just because retailer is purchasing in large quantity, but because retailer is able to pass on that to the customer based on the sales done by the retailer to the customer. Retailer should be given the incentive by the manufacturer, not just because retailer purchased from manufacturer that manufacturer is giving incentive to him. Sell in means only retailer is producing, retailer is buying from the manufacturer. Sell-in doesn't have any impact on the supply chain profitability because inventory was earlier here, now just got passed on to retailer. That is all the difference, but still inventory is there within the boundary of the supply chain. So cost is still getting added up, so it is of no use. Whereas if from the retailer it goes to the next person, that is customer, then the customer is the point where the supply chain gets the funds. So that is why if once it is moved passed on to the customer, then this retailer should be identified for his work and should be given the incentive. That's what the meaning of sell in and sell through. Sell through means it should be passed on to the customer. Sell in means only sold to the retailer from the manufacturer. That's it. Improving information accuracy. So when you pass on the information, you don't speculate and pass on. Just share the point of sale data. We say POS. POS stands for point of sale. So point of sale is retailer. From the retailer, what demand took actually happened, the same thing you just pass on. So that manufacturer also can correctly picturize it. The supplier also can study the hidden pattern out of it. Go for collaborative forecasting and planning. Whenever you forecast or whenever you plan something, all of you sit together and jointly do it, so that skill levels of all the people will be pooled at one place and will be used for some value addition task. Replenishment control, let it not be there with each person, let it be there with single stage. For example, manufacturer is the one who produces and sends it to the retailer or wholesaler and then to the retailer. With all these people, whose products are there? That of manufacturer. So he knows very well his product, its shelf life, how exactly it behaves, its characteristic features, everything. Mostly the details are with the manufacturer because he is the owner of that product. So better if he decides about the replenishments to be done at the wholesaler or at the retailer. So there are two schemes, continuous replenishment program and vendor managed inventory. This person has got capacity details, whereas that is resources for production. This person has got demand details correctly. This person has got the demand details, but with that it is of no use, should be fulfilled by the manufacturer. So both of them are needed for value addition. And so rather than every time placing the order, all those formalities, rather than doing, supposing if they enter into a treaty, so that every time the manufacturer will decide when to replenish, how much to replenish, so that there won't be any stockouts at this place, then it is called as continuous replenishment program, as well as vendor managed inventory. Both are same, only difference is inventory at the retailer. If retailer is the owner, then it's called CRP. If for the inventory at the retailer, if manufacturer is the owner, then it is called as VMI, vendor managed inventory, till it gets pushed to the customer. If onus is on manufacturer, then it is called VMI. So most of the time is saved, fixed cost associated with the order is saved if there is no usual conventional formalities that are taking place between the two. Anyway, you know very well the same product you are going to produce, and from the same manufacturer you are going to produce. So go for these schemes which will save the time as well as cost. Improving operational performance. This is for operational obstacle. Try to reduce the replenishment lead time. Do this through reducing the lot size, one of the ways, because as the lot size increases, replenishment lead time also increases. It is just like at home for cooking, small time is needed, small amount of time. If more to be cooked, then more time is needed. So they are directly proportional. Try to reduce the lot size, reduce the uncertainty in demand. Electronic data interchange is called EDI. EDI nowadays is not having much significance, because before the internet era, they used to call it as EDI, computer assisted any task being done, ordering, something like that. It's called electronic data interchange. Any data processing, if you do it through computer, it's called EDI. Nowadays everything will be done using internet, so it's the advanced version of that is what we are seeing today. So go for computerized ordering, so that much of the time will be saved. In document processing only time used to get killed, so that can be saved. Go for business to business transactions. Shipping in LTL sizes. Once the ordering time cost is reduced, and when you go for small lot sizes, there is every possibility that transportation cost increases, because this LTL means less than truckload. This comes under transportation. There are two things: truckload and less than truckload. TL, LTL. Few people go for TL whenever supply chain is efficient, means whenever it thinks of economy of scale, try to reduce the cost, then it will go for LTL. So now lots are small. How to achieve TL? If don't go for LTL, cost increases. So if you want to decrease it, go for combining or aggregating the orders. Variety of items, but all in small lot sizes. So once this aggregation comes into picture, receiving becomes stressful. Overload on receiving. So go for technology assisted receiving, so that the receiving becomes simpler, like barcode reading and then automated inventory updation, all these things. So go for ASN, advanced shipping note, so that the person who receives it in advance will come to know the physical the lot size as well as its characteristic features, everything. Next is rationing. In this, this Walmart and then 7-Eleven Japan, they all are very good in this. Next is rationing based on past sales and sharing. We just spoke about what about the rationing. The demand is more and the capacity is less, then how exactly you go for rationing it. Then the demand will be inflated simply to get the more portion by the retailers. We just saw in the hurdles. So what can be done? You see the past sales done by the retailer. A particular retailer is very good in converting, in turning his inventory into sales. This is called inventory turnover ratio. How good he is in converting inventory into sales, how fast. So turn and then earn from the earn out of it, and also get more from the manufacturer. Turn the inventory into sales, you get the funds, so earn it, and also get more and more from the manufacturer. Whatever you took from the manufacturer, if you keep it with you, you are poor in converting that into sales, then earning is also less, and whenever there is scarcity in capacity, you cannot take more from the manufacturer. So next is information sharing. That is also very important. How about pricing strategies to be stabilized? So encourage retailers to order in smaller lots and no forward buying. Then only they go for large lots. Quantity discount can be based on either lot sized or volume sized. So don't go for lot sized, then the retailers try to increase it. Go for volume based. Volume based means duration, based on duration. In a year, if you buy this much, then only discount will be given. In a month, if you buy this much, then only it will be incentive will be given. That is, discount will be given. It is not like that key based on lot size. You can go for many lots, but within a month you should purchase. Small lots will also do, but within a particular period you should buy this much quantity. Based on that, give the incentive. Stabilizing pricing. Eliminate promotions. Don't go for promotion. Walmart practices this very well. This is the business model practiced by Walmart, and it found it to be very successful. Don't go for promotion, no discount, high, low rates, no, that will have negative impact on demand variation. So everyday low pricing, it's called EDLP. Okay, so every day you assure that your price is the least. So go for sell through rather than amount purchased. We will move on to last managerial lever, that is building strategic partnership and trust. So all those managerial levers above this, whatever we discussed, are more practical if there is trust and coordination between the partners, that is various stages of the supply chain. When you share the information, that should be trusted by every stage, then only it results in better supply and demand matching at the lowest cost, lower transaction cost between the stages, etc. It's like if the manufacturer and supplier is there, manufacturer can eliminate the forecasting effort. The supplier can eliminate the forecasting effort, because manufacturer has already done it, and if he shares it accurately and if they have trust, then only it is possible. Similarly, what supplier produced, he simply when he sends it to the manufacturer can simply receive it, provided he has got more trust on what supplier does. So duplication of effort can be eliminated. So takeaway is that managerial levers help to achieve better coordination. There are two types: action oriented levers and relationship oriented levers. Only this one, building strategic partnership and trust, comes under the second one. All remaining comes under first one. So trust involves a belief that each stage is interested in others' welfare and will not take actions that will harm others. So why do you think cooperation and trust help to improve performance? There are few reasons mentioned here. Because they are more likely to take other parties' objectives into consideration when making decisions. I already told you, decisions taken at one place will have consequences at the other place. So you should be very, very careful when you take decisions in such situations. Managerial levers to achieve coordination can be easily implemented if there is a trust, cooperation, and trust. Sharing of information, accurate information without distortion, without delay is possible. Increase in supply chain productivity possible. Duplication of effort will be reduced, and the role or responsibility will be given to appropriate stage. Greater sharing of information, and this leads to coordinated production and distribution decisions, better matching of supply and demand. So supply chain relationship can be based on two things, either power based or trust based. As soon as you see the name, you can understand that it is always better if you go for trust based. Power based relationship, there will be one stronger party who dictates all others who are weak. So there will be negative consequences in this, obviously. So the stronger party will maximize its profit locally at the expense of weaker parties. So this will decrease the total supply chain profit, obviously. So unfair concessions, the stronger party keeps taking, and things will not remain same. One fine day, the reversal of power takes place. Strong party will become weak, weak party will become strong. Then for stronger party to act as weak party or bow his head down for the weaker person becomes difficult, not possible to sustain. So that will also have negative impact on the profit. When one exploits the that is stronger party, when he tries to exploit the weaker parties, there are possibilities that weaker parties try to resist, try to skip it, try to seek other ways to overcome these things. So there are possibilities that don't they directly interact with the customer through internet or something like that, not through the retailer. So all these things happen. So rather than cooperating, people start competing, people become enemies. So how to design a relationship with cooperation and trust? Because once a relationship is with cooperation and trust, you consider that ultimate is reached, because such a supply chain will be highly successful, because every aspect in the supply chain, action, reaction, decision making, everything will be efficient and effective if and only if relationship is there is a relationship with cooperation and trust. Key point lies with the relationship. How good it is, that much better the supply chain will be. So what are the key steps in designing such a sensitive issue? So there are a few key steps mentioned. The supply chain management also has got answer to this. Assess the value of the relationship, identify operational roles and decision rights, create effective contracts, design effective conflict resolution mechanism. Assessing value of the relationship. What are the steps in that? What are the benefits you get due to better relationship? First you identify and pass on that information to each member of the supply chain. Everyone will have distinct skill and everyone is needed, should play his role correctly to fulfill a customer order more effectively. For example, manufacturer produces, carrier transports, and retailer provides the availability of the product to the customer. If any one of the stages is not there, the complete supply chain gets disrupted. So identify the criteria. Each one should value the relationship, no? So identify the criteria through which you can evaluate the relationship. Like how in profit gets enhanced if good relationship is there, due to as a result of better relationship. If it was not there, what was the profit? If it is there, what is the profit? Just find out, and the difference attributes to the better relationship. So evaluate that and pass on that. Equity, fair dealing, once that profit is earned, should be fairly divided. So that could be another criteria. So clarify the contribution of each party and the cumulative effect of that. So supposing postponement strategy says that postpone the product differentiation till the customer order comes in. So for example, if you consider the apparel, the garment industry, the cloth, if they color first and then go for knitting, the product differentiation started in the first stage itself. Whereas if they knit first and once the customer order comes in, they go for coloring, then it's called postponement strategy, pull type of model. And postponement will always result in more profit, but a little bit more complicated and not properly managed, bit more cost associated. So if at all such a possibility is there, manufacturer should pass on this information to distributor also, so that both of them collectively can implement it, so that it will be more successful. Identify operational roles and decision rights for each party. What is the role of each party and who should take the decision? Usually, the stages have interdependence. This interdependence can be either sequential or reciprocal. Means manufacturer will manufacture and then pass it on to the wholesaler. Wholesaler will do the distribution part and then he will pass it on to retailer. This is sequential. Only in one direction it moves. Whereas reciprocal means in both the direction. Manufacturer does something, gives it to the wholesaler. He does something, once again gives back to the manufacturer. Then once again first stage to second, then second to first. Reciprocity is there. This is called reciprocal interdependence. This, if properly handled, will result in maximized profit compared to sequential. But system is bit more complicated, so not properly handled if will incur more cost. For example, there's a beautiful story once upon a time of Dell computer. Dell doesn't produce on its own anything, so it assembles the items sent by the different experts in that field. So it gets its monitors from Sony, its processor from Intel, pioneers in that area field. From them it purchases and assembles and gives it. Dell used to get the computer and Sony used to provide the this monitor. If you consider the desktop, these two are two different items, only they need to be assembled. Airborne, an engineering company in America, used to pick the computers, Dell computers from Texas and Sony monitors from Mexico. On the way used to assemble and give it to the customer. So this is how much cooperation, information sharing is needed in this scenario, just imagine. But they made it successful by having sophisticated technology. IT. Creating effective contracts. Create contracts that encourage negotiation. It's essential that supplier and retailer develop a relationship that allows trust to compensate for any contract. When you do, there will be some gaps. As and when the contingencies arise, you go for filling the gap. But both of them should be ready to do that. Whenever official contract is in place, takes its birth, at the same time, unofficial developments when they take, and whenever a gap arises, should be filled properly, and both should have that mindset to fill it readily. So those things which evolve over time, is much more effective, much more practical compared to the one which was established fully in the beginning, because nothing can be 100% completely done beforehand. It's not contract alone that keeps the relationship effective. It should be combination of contract, mutual benefit of relationship, trust, everything. So one of the examples is that of Caterpillar and its dealerships. It told key anyone in the supply chain can terminate the agreement without cause with 90 days notice. All are equal in that matter. Designing effective conflict resolution mechanism. However good the relationship is, there is always conflict that is bound to arise. So as and when the conflicts arise, there should be some resolution mechanism that is accepted by all the parties. So a good conflict resolution mechanism, if it is there in place, it will give more opportunity to communicate and work through their differences, so that trust building becomes easier. So there is a saying that uh, uh, appreciate the differences and uh, appreciate the similarities and respect the differences. Always appreciate the if there are similarities, very fine, you appreciate. If there are differences, then also fine, you respect it. So it is once again location dependent. So whenever conflicts arose, United States went for detailed contract to resolve it, whereas in Asia they used to go for court based negotiation. So once if you design, usually top management people, they take keen interest in designing the relationship for cooperation and trust. They prepare the document, they will circulate it, and all of them agree upon everything mentioned in that. But when the execution part comes, managing of that comes, then people fail, because top management thinks that its responsibility ended, but it is not so. Managing also, the active part of top management is very much needed. So if it is once effectively managed, it will support cooperation and trust, it will nurture cooperation and trust, increase supply chain coordination, which ultimately results in improved profitability. What are the factors to improve the chances of success? Go for the presence of flexibility, trust, commitment, responsibility, good organizational arrangement for conflict resolution, mechanisms that make the actions of each party and resulting outcomes more visible, fair treating, particularly there will be weaker parties, vulnerable partners, no? So go for fair treating of them. Better you treat them, more will be the supply chain profitability, stronger will be the relationship. Go for collaborative planning, forecasting and replenishment. In short, it is CPFR. A more well-known popular model, once again, a business practice that combines the intelligence of multiple partners, all sit together for planning and fulfillment of customer demand. Planning, forecasting, replenishment, all executions, planning, everything. So skill level of all the people will be pooled at one place. So this collaboration can take place for strategy and planning, demand and supply management, execution and analysis. Fundamental aspect is that identification and resolution of gaps. Identify the gaps, and as and when it is identified, you resolve it. So there are 4 scenarios possible for CPFR. Retail event collaboration deals with retail environments. DC replenishment collaboration for forecasting DC withdrawals. Store replenishment at store level. Collaborative assortment planning. Seasonal demand wherever you find, for example, apparel, fashion apparel and other seasonal goods. So what are the ways in which IT, information technology, can help in enabling the coordination? In two ways it can help. One is making the information available, actual physical sharing of entire information, every detailing of information, make it available. IT helps you. It doesn't only share the information, it sorts the data. Nowadays, big data, metadata, data mining, all have become buzzwords. So, sorting of huge data, it sorts the data, it structures the data, the manner in which the user wants it, allows the users to pull the needle out of the haystack. Just imagine picking needle, such a small item, out of a big heap of hay. So this will be done by the IT through intelligent organization and search engines. It is not only information making available, making use of this available information to make decisions. Nowadays we have something called decision support system. So which will provide the decision maker all kinds of decisions possible out of the data gathered, and the what are the further consequences out of it. Everything will be listed. Only decision maker has to appropriately select the decision out of it. IT enables use of supply chain information to make inventory connected, production connected, transportation, sourcing, pricing, all kinds of decisions. But there are a few disadvantages also, because huge data, complicated issues are there, technical challenges are there. Sometimes you might have observed key computer does everything for us, but suddenly when needed it hangs up, or suddenly data gets corrupted, something like that. So it's possible because things are very much complicated here, calls for high technology, which may not work every time. Integration of disparate systems, means dissimilar systems. Different companies have different operating processes. Will have one type of process, like manufacturer will manufacture raw material, uh, supplier will do processing of the raw material, and then the warehousing person will do distribution. So all these are processes, heterogeneous processes. So integrating them together and making them more sensible is a very tough task. And biggest hurdle lies here, trust factor. Companies do not trust each other. If that is the case, however much you invest, however best the software is, it becomes a dummy investment because people don't trust each other. So today's supply chain software providers in this area are once again SAP, Oracle, I2 Technologies, and Managistics. So thank you for your patience hearing. We have come to the end of the part 1 of role of IT in supply chain. Thank you.